Thorny, as we venture into the R&R, two truths are consistent. We love our dear Montana State, and we love great beer. And you know who else feels the same? Jeremiah Johnson Brewing. Brewed in the heart of Montana in downtown Great Falls, Jeremiah Johnson takes Montana's finest ingredients to craft some of Montana's favorite beers. And now, Jeremiah Johnson's second tap room is open in downtown Coeur d'Alene. Their Citra IPA is probably one of my favorites. But we all know, Thorny, you're not the hop lover I am. You're more of a mountain man Scotch ale.
Well, Foley, I'm certainly not a mountain man, but you are right. I do love their Mountain Man Scotch Ale. But come game day, you and I are both cracking their Golden Bobcat Pale Ale. So when you're looking for a quality craft beer brewed with Montana roots, a relaxing tap room, or just a six-pack to take to your favorite Bobcat tailgate, Jeremiah Johnson delivers. Make your next beer a Jeremiah Johnson, and as always, go Cats.
Welcome, everybody, to the R&R Catcast, a fan-based podcast focusing on Montana State athletics. We're two dudes named Ryan from the state of Washington talking about our dear Montana State. We hope you enjoy it. All right. Welcome back, Bobcat fans. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the R&R Catcast. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Foley. And across the state from me is my good buddy, Ryan Thornburg. We are the Ryans of the R&R. We are the Montana State affiliate of the Big Sky Podcast Network. And we are happy to be sponsored by Jeremiah Johnson Brewing, brewing great beers, dank beers in downtown Great Falls with its second tap room over in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Thorny, we're here to talk about the Eastern Eagles and the Montana State showdown in Cheney. It's going to be a big one, buddy.
It is a big one, man. It's the biggest regular season game I can think of in quite some time. And I was actually thinking about this today. Has there been a matchup between two top five teams in MSU regular season and ever?
What was the Cat Grizz game in 2019? I think the Grizzlies were number 3.
Yeah. I guess maybe the Cat. No, but the Cats weren't top 5, I don't think, at that point. Anyway,
no,
regardless.
Maybe right outside.
Rarefied air, right?
It feels weird a little bit because we both didn't play last week, and yet we both bumped up in the polls. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, a top 5 showdown over on the red turf.
Yeah.
Wow.
Man, exciting. Good to be back on the mic to talk about it because we took the weekend off. So let's roll.
All right. Okay, let's do a little rundown for this episode. I'll try to remember it all top of my head. We will talk about the news, which is not a lot. We'll talk about the FCS sports rankings that came out, the Big Sky Power rankings that we vote in. We'll talk a little bit about injuries and maybe Coach Vegan, what he said in the press conference. Actually, we're going to start today off with Around the Big Sky, something we do in our R&R After Dark episodes. But like Thorny said, we didn't do one this weekend, so we're going to bring that into this episode today. And then we will get into the Eastern Eagles. And finally, we'll fold the episode up with some Golden Coolie questions on the end.
Sounds good. Yeah, should be a action-packed episode. A lot of not game-specific stuff to get through here before we get to the big game, man. Woo! I'm excited, man. I haven't been this excited for a game in quite some time, for a not Cat Grizz game.
That was a lot to remember. It was just like going off the checklist in my head, man, but I did it.
You did it. I was pulling up the stat rankings, so honestly, if you didn't do it, I wouldn't have even noticed. I was focused on pulling up the top 25 poll.
All right.
I'm going to trust you that you did it.
Before we get into any of that fun stuff, let's talk about what's in our Golden Coolies.
So I actually don't have a Golden Coolie today because my beer is too big to fit in it. I have a big old 1 pint, 6 fluid ounce, whatever that is, 650 milliliter, one of the big boys. Boundary Bay Imperial Oatmeal Stout. I thought, big man month, we got a big game coming up. I'm getting myself a big beer. I'm pouring it into a chilled glass to drink out of. So no coolie here, can't fit. But yeah, Boundary Bay Imperial Stout, like 9.7% alcohol. By the time I'm getting done with this thing, I'll probably be My lips will be a little bit more loose as the episode goes on. But it's delicious. I love a good Imperial Stout. So, yeah, highly recommend it. And, yeah, big man month, big beer.
Didn't we say Troy Anderson was the Imperial Stout of beers?
Yeah, I think we did do that. We were like naming if he was a beer. I think we did say like an oatmeal stout for Troy Anderson. Yeah.
Oh, we need to bring that segment back before the end of the season.
Hey, Imperial Stout.
All right,
touchdown reference there. Carry on.
I have a local beer from Perry Street. I tasted it last Tuesday on Run Club. They just put out what's called their Autumn Stout. And I'm holding it up. So it's in a pint glass, Thorny. It is really dark, like a stout is. Totally chocolatey, which I love about this stout. It's only 5% alcohol. Really easy drinking. Just your typical good fall stout.
We're both drinking out of glasses instead of coolies. Is this an omen? We did something similar before the Weber game, I believe. So I think it turned out okay. So,
woo!
We're hoping to turn over a new leaf against East Washington here. So maybe we're trying something different here, bucking the trend.
All right. Keep this thing going, buddy. We got to get into a lot of stuff today. So let's talk about Around the Big Sky. This is something we normally do on the R&R After Dark, our quick take episode, which has been super fun. We didn't have one this weekend. I had texted you about maybe doing one, but we both were like, we're kind of
nope.
So
taking the week off, this is like our only break. And if we have any sort of playoff run, this is like the only break we're going to get. So I'm taking it.
All right. So I'm just going to run down the games. We could just how about we just pull one to each other? I'll take the first one.
Yep.
Over Missoula, the Grizzlies beat Southern Utah 2019, which is a game that will undoubtedly be talked about all week long on the airwaves, especially out of Missoula. Again, the Grizz look a little bit lackluster. Southern Utah looked better than advertised. Southern Utah has a record of 1-8, 0-6 in the Big Sky. And they were a blocked field goal away from winning that game.
And they missed an extra point, too, earlier in the game.
Yeah, that's right.
At least sent it into overtime. So, well, that was a crazy game. And the Grizz got a lot of work to do. They're struggling over there, but they got the win. Moving on, Weber State got another win after their big win over Eastern Washington. No letdown game, traveling over to Pocatello, beating the Bengals 40-17. In kind of a game that, they pretty much just dominated. I don't think that the Bengals even had 200 yards of offense. So another good defensive performance. And Weber State could win out, finish 7-4, and potentially sneak into the playoffs.
Yeah, they're playing hot right now. Rashid Shaheed had he housed a kick on that game. Yeah. Man,
broke the FCS record. Seven returns for touchdowns in his career now.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
6 or 7. He broke the FCS record and he tied the FBS one with like the likes of like CJ Spiller and those guys.
All right, next game, Stingers up, Sacramento State. Edges. The dangerous Fighting McCaffreys.
You always say Stingers up and it makes me laugh every time. It's only second to Let's Go P for Austin P. Stingers up, man. Close second to Let's Go P. Anyway.
27-24 over in Greeley. That one was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. Sacramento State, again, I said it on the last episode. I don't know how much I buy Sacramento State. I think they're kind of streaky. I think they can be one of the best teams in the Big Sky Conference, but then they can go do this, which we can all, right? I mean, look at Montana just edging Southern Utah. We didn't have a great game against Idaho State.
Well, it's never fun to play in Greeley, man. It's always a weird environment, and lots of teams go lay eggs in Greeley. But if you let Dylan McCaffrey throw for 232 yards on you, are you top 5 team in the Big Sky?
Yeah. So there it is. Sacramento State still writing its own story over there. They're doing fine. They're 6-2, 5-0 in the Big Sky. So they don't have a very tough schedule. So I could see them sneaking into the playoffs. Or not sneaking into the playoffs. I think they probably could outright win the Big Sky title and maybe get a seed. I'm not sure. Probably not.
Yeah, if they win out, maybe top 8 seed.
Yeah.
All right. We'll pour one out, which I'm not going to do. Maybe I'll pour some more into my glass for our boys over at the Tubs of the Club. Down goes Idaho yet again to Northern Arizona, a team that got blanked 44-0 last week against Sac State. Comes back, wins in Idaho. Is that how I read this? The bottom team is the home
they're in
team.
Moscow.
Jeez, I didn't realize they're in Moscow. Ooh. So they lose at home with some fans in the stands wearing like brown bags on their heads and the Fire Petrino shirts. I saw pictures of that. That's just coming to a crashing halt there down in Idaho. So yeah, NAU gets the win 38-31, moves to 4-4, 3-2 in the Big Sky. NAU's 3-2 in the Big Sky. Idaho falls to 2-6. The season can't end fast enough for the Vandals.
Full on dumpster fire. I mean, that thing is such a mess.
I don't know even if the harshest critics could have predicted the fall that Idaho would have dropping down the FCS.
Man, it'd be fun to wax back and take a look at the arc of their program since coming back into the Big Sky. I think they literally only have like 7 wins in since 2016 or something like that. I'm gonna get blasted,
but it's it's like they've never finished above 500 though.
Yeah,
if you're talking just Big Sky wins, maybe I don't know, but either way, it ain't pretty.
Yeah. All right. Last game there over in Portland. Portland State took care of Cal Poly 42-21, doubling them up. I watched a little bit of that game. It was kind of boring, actually. I kept rooting for Cal Poly because I was kept thinking, like, come on, Cal Poly, pull this one off. They would score, and then Davis Alexander would just walk them down the field, and they would Portland State would just take another touchdown, and all of a sudden they had a 3-touchdown lead. And that's about the story of that game.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Portland State won a game they should have won, and keeping their playoff lives are slightly alive. Do you want to know why Portland State's playoff lives are alive? They can get to 7 wins. They can finish 7-4, but their next 3 games are at Weber, at Sac, and then at home against Eastern. If they finish 7-4 by beating those 3 teams, they might be looking at a playoff berth. I highly doubt it.
Yeah, for sure.
But if they win those 3 games, like they'll be in the conversation. Because then Weber would finish 6-5 at best.
Have you ever found yourself watching a random Big Sky game that doesn't involve any kind of big teams like this Portland State Cal Poly game?
It's so weird. I would rather watch some of that than I would most FBS teams. I have this weird thing where I just prefer FCS football. I don't know what it is. Like, I know most people have like an FBS team also, or they'll watch the big important games. I'd rather watch like a close Cal Poly Portland State game in Hillsborough with nobody there. I don't know what it is. It appeals to me more. I just have more connection to it. It's the connection that really makes me want to watch those games more than I don't care about like Auburn versus Ole Miss. Like I don't know anybody who roots for those teams. I don't know a single fan. Like it doesn't mean anything to me.
Well, just when I watch those games, like I totally get where you're coming from. Like the connection point is totally there, but it just looks so empty and so.
It is. It's like, super podunk.
Yeah, the energy is just so low. And so, like, if you don't have, like, this connection, this fabric to the Big Sky Conference, you watch that game, you're like, oh, my gosh.
Yeah, who would ever watch that? Like, I imagine most Big Sky fans don't watch it. I imagine most Portland State fans don't watch Portland State against Cal Poly. Anyway, there you are. Yeah. There's the Big Sky After Dark, which is still technically After Dark. It's just a couple days later than we normally do it.
Okay. All right. Hey, let's move into the FCS stats rankings that came out today. The top 25. Montana State moved up to 4th. We didn't even play a game. We went up from 4th. We were 6th last week. I can't remember last time Montana State was in the top 4. That's pretty stinking good. 2019 we would have been in the final poll because we were one of the last 4. But yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, yep. The Cats keep moving up kind of by default at this point because the top teams just keep falling. I think Villanova went down. South Dakota State went down again. So, like, even if you're not believing in the Cats, like, you have no choice but to move them up at this point. So, Cats are number 4 after being number 6. So, gotta love it.
Right behind us is Eastern Washington, number 5. And they were at number 7. So, number 4, number 5 going off this weekend in Genie. Man, that is huge. So just look at number 1. Sam Houston, who plays a 10-game schedule, is number 1. That's a really easy schedule, by the way. North Dakota State is 8-0. They're number 2. James and Madison's number 3.
Yeah, JMU fell a few weeks ago after getting whooped by Nova, but they're working their way back in there. Now they're top 3. Same kind of
Hey, what's
situation.
the?
Everyone else just keeps losing. And SIU lost, last week or 2 weeks ago? Like, it's just been nobody wants to stay in the top 5. It's a curse. Are we cursed now?
I don't know. Hey, I got a question. What's the deal with Southeastern Louisiana?
They got a guy, Cole Kelly or whatever, who's like going toe-to-toe with Eric Berrier to win the Walter Payton, having some just crazy video game numbers too. So I also heard that Southern Louisiana plays like 2 of the teams in their conference, 2 or 3 of the teams twice because they're just the conference got rated. I'm so confused on conference realignment stuff, but I think they play like Houston Baptist twice, the team that like Northern Colorado beat. I mean, they have like a super easy schedule, and it's kind of crazy, but they got a guy who can sling it. So they're 7-1, and yeah, they're taking care of business too. Like, it's all you can do is beat the opponents in front of you like 70-50.
I did see that Cole Kelly's guy's numbers. He is the real deal right now. So, anyways, UC Davis comes in at number 8. That's kind of crazy to me. UC Davis, I still don't believe a lick in. They were at number 9, yet they are a top 8 team in the nation. Thorny, you probably disagree with me. 11, Montana stays at 11 with a 1-point win against one of the worst teams in all of FCS football.
They did it. They beat him.
Woo!
Congratulations.
Yeah,
big win.
And it's such a crappy win. Weber State's 24. 24th in the nation, and so they are just like inside the top 25. So good representation of the Big Sky State schools. Oh, I forgot to say Sac State. I was looking for Sac State. Sac State's sitting at 16.
Before we move on from the national stuff here, I want to mention real quick. Just today announced Sam Houston State and Jacksonville State both going FBS. Did you hear that?
No, I didn't.
They are joining the Conference USA, which has been poached by the Sun Belt. Man, I get confused on all those.
Yeah.
Southeast FBS conferences with like Tulane and like Louisiana and Tulsa and UTEP. I don't know. I don't pay attention to any of that, but I did see Sam Houston State and Jacksonville State are both on their way out. I didn't see a timeline, but number 1 in the country, defending reigning champs, getting out of the FCS.
You know, we're going to
do a whole episode
that
on our thoughts on that, but
yeah.
Just thought I'd throw it out there. I saw that a few hours ago.
I'm not going to touch that tonight. All right. Power rankings. Let's get through this quickly. I wrote mine down.
You did.
Play the jerk move.
You're smart because I like, you could ask me every single day and I would have a different probably top 6. And now I don't remember what I did.
Okay.
I know I did Bobcats number 1. I know I did Eastern number 2. Then I don't remember what I did. I may have either Weber or UC Davis is what I would have done. I know I put like Sac State like all the way down to 5th. And I actually believe I put Portland State 6th and the Grizz 7th. I think I put Portland State above the Grizz. The Grizz game was so bad. Like, I just feel like if they played together, like Portland State probably might beat the Grizz. It'd be a toss-up. I had a hard time picking who would win that one. I mean, Southern Utah had their chance to win the game. They were without their All-American linebacker, Hana Loco Davis, whatever. I have no idea what his name is. The huge named guy. and it was in Missoula. I don't know. Maybe I'm penalizing the Grizz too much for that loss, but they've just they've lost 2 out of the last 3. I put Portland State above them in the power rankings. And they were only like 20 points off according to whatever Brian Marceau's scoring system is. I have no idea, but the Portland State was right behind the Grizz. They were actually pretty close. So I must not have been the only one who had a similar situation. I think that the Grizz fan pod guys put the Grizz pretty low. They seemed pretty down on it. They said like, I put the Grizz like 10th or something. Like, easy guys. Anyway,
you might have overreact right there. I had Montana State first, but then I scratched them. I put Eastern Washington first. I just think Eastern Washington has more firepower than the Cats. I put Montana State 2, Weber 3, Sac 4, the Grizz 5, Davis 6, PSU 7, NAU 8, Northern Colorado 9, Idaho State 10, 11 Idaho, 12 Southern Utah. I should have put Southern Utah in front of Idaho. I really should have. And then Cal Poly.
I put Southern Utah second to last only because of their performance in Missoula.
Man.
Cal Poly's got to hold down the toilet spot.
I'm kind of surprised Cal Poly hasn't turned it around a little bit. I mean, I thought Bo Baldwin get things going there. I thought they would like catch fire a little bit, kind of be streaky. I mean, they have 3 games left. They might. So who knows?
They might. They're probably just figuring things out. Like they're not in any hurry to figure out things out this season. They're working towards next season.
Alrighty. So power rankings done. FCS stats done. Let's talk about some news for the Bobcats. The only big news that came out about the Bobcats today was from Coach Vegan, and the news is we're healthy, Ryan.
Yep, Chase Benson, Callahan O'Reilly, both back starting depth chart. Same with TJ Session. There was another interesting. The other thing from the depth chart I found a little interesting was Sebastian Valdez was penciled in as the starting defensive tackle next to Chase Benson with Blake Heel backing him up. I think Heel's been starting most of the season, so that's a nod to how Valdez has been playing. But yeah, you're getting back to the injury thing. Seems like we're pretty healthy for the main guys. Tyrell Thomas, he talked about. Nate Stewart, he said, could play. And James Campbell all could play. I think those guys will all be limited, but I imagine Benson and O'Reilly and Session are good to go. If Benson did have a back thing, I'm curious to see if he'll be limited or not. But regardless, those guys will be back playing. Good news.
Those back things can get pretty tricky. You know, they can be triggered pretty fast. And so I kind of crossed my fingers for good old Chase Benson. He's a key cog in our success.
At the same time, though, if he tweaked his back and it was questionable, you're not going to put him in the Idaho State game.
That's a good point.
That's a game you're confident you're winning, whether Chase Benson plays or not.
Well, Coach Vegan also said just mentally the Cats just came out of the bye really refreshed. He talked about even guys who weren't on the injured list just getting some time to heal up, including like Matt McKay. Matt McKay apparently was a little bit dinged up, had some hits. And we'll talk about kind of his progress over the bye week. I hear that. It's just gurgle.
Some ASMR beer pouring.
We make our own sound effects on the R&R.
I've been wanting to have like a beer pouring sound for our Cooley segment. Maybe we'll see how that sounds. It probably sounds pretty gross. Probably sounds terrible. But anyway.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're going to on the injury front.
Yep. And mentality front too. You know, I'm just excited to see the Cats play again. For me, the bye week always gives me like a mental break because I just get amped up and anxious and juiced and all of it during the whole week. And so going into the bye week, I'm always like just a little bit refreshed. I enjoy the Saturday a little bit more where I don't have to watch Montana State. I know that sounds weird because I love watching Montana State, but I just get nervous. I'm a bad Bobcat fan to watch the game with. So it gives me a little bit of reprieve. I did a lot of yard work. Fall was spectacular here in Spokane. All the leaves came down. But yeah, Saturday was just gorgeous out. But now I'm ready to watch the Bobcats again. I found like Saturday night, I was like, man, I kind of just miss it. And I wanted to talk Bobcat football. I wanted to get on the R&R after dark. None of that was happening. And so I'm ready for it, man.
Yeah, me too. This is, like I said, the most excited I've been for a while. So do you want to just get into it?
Let's talk about Eastern. Let's talk about the history of Eastern real quick because
let's not talk about the history. I don't want to verbalize it. I don't want to speak it into the world because it's bad. It's worse than I even remember it being, which is saying something.
Thorny, I did all the research. I'm going to say it right now.
I'm going to drink while you talk. I'll hit mute so no one hears me drinking.
The last 16 years, we've only won twice against Eastern. We were, 2003, we lost 25-34. I can't really remember that game. I do remember the 44-51 loss in 04 in Bozeman. I spent the first half screaming across the state of Montana in my little Mazda truck trying to get back from Missoula to watch that game. Eric Meyer and Eric Kimball just tore us up in the second half, and they came back and they beat us in the overtime game. I hated the game
that Lule had like 600 yards of total offense by himself or something like that. Yeah.
But we couldn't stop the Eric Meyer, Eric Kimball connection. But anyways, we were like 22 years old, man. 16 years ago. And
Just kids.
It's terrible. I mean, the Eastern Eagles have just absolutely dominated us in the last 16 years. I can't believe we only have 2 wins. And those wins came in 2011. We beat, we won in Cheney 36-21. I remember that game. Deontay Flowers had a really good game. And then we won in Bozeman the year before. I forgot about that. 37. So that was the largest margin of victory we've had in the last 16 years. And
that was the
I
year
did
they
a
won
little
the national championship.
Yeah, they went home in the national championship. We haven't won against the Eastern men in the Big Two sports since 2019. And that was February 7th. We beat them 74-66 in basketball in Bozeman.
I'm surprised it's that recent, honestly.
Yeah, I know.
Eastern's like dominated the Big Sky Conference men's basketball, like period. It's been like the Grizz, Weber, and Montana. Like, I'm surprised that we've beaten them that recently, to be honest.
So we just aired out our grievances against Eastern right off the bat. I mean, that's a tough pill to swallow. You got to go back, but we have lost a ton to Eastern.
Yeah, there was a memory I have with my dad that I hold dear. We drove, and I don't know what year it would have been. Were you saying the odd years in the 2000 in the aughts? My goodness, I feel so old. Were the odd years the away games?
Yeah. So let's see. Well, I only went back to 2003, so we lost 25-34. Yeah, no, it was in Spokane. They played at Joe Alvey, which was really cool.
That wouldn't have been where I watched it then. So anyway, because that was back before the Big Sky added a bunch of teams. He actually played. It was easy to tell. Even years you're here, odd years you're there. Anyway, so my dad and I drove out for a full weekend of football. I'm also a big Rams fan. Just signed Von Miller. Pretty excited about that from the Broncos. Drove out, watched the Bobcats lose in Cheney, had tickets to the Rams and Seahawks game the next day, watched the Rams lose to the Seahawks. Great weekend of football that was, but it was a lot of fun. It was a good trip with my dad. But yeah, that'd have been about 2005. Yeah, I think about 2005 was when that happened, because it was just after Kurt Warner was done at the Rams. It was Mark Bulger, Steven Jackson. Couldn't get it done.
We lost 14-35 in 2005 in Cheney.
That sounds about right. I don't remember it being particularly competitive.
We've had a lot of those where they've doubled this up. A lot of 14-35s, 17-34s. And then we had those 2 years in 14 and 15 where we were 51-52 in Bozeman.
No one played any defense at all. Nope, neither team did.
And then the next year, Choate's first year, I believe, was 50-55. Was that Choate's first year in 15?
No way.
Or was it 16?
16, yeah.
Okay, my
Choate
bad.
Never scored 55 points.
That's a good point.
Or gave up 50 points unless it was maybe North Dakota State.
Oh, you know what? I went to that one. That was my first year living out here in Spokane, that 50-55, and I left at halftime. I was so disappointed. It was this windy, crappy Eastern Washington day, and we were getting our butts kicked in Dakota Prukop. That was his senior year for us. And we had a string of good luck in the second half where we had like a drop punt or something, blah, blah, blah. It just kept favor just kept popping to the Bobcats. And I was listening on the way back to Spokane, and I was like, I was just like crushing myself. I was like, no. And then of course we lost. So whatever.
Is that the one where the Bobcats, they scored like on every single possession? The Eagles did?
I think that happened once. 2 years in a row, man. I think that happened 2 years in a row.
It was in Cheney. I remember specifically they scored like 8 touchdown drives in a row. Not field goals, just 8 straight touchdowns.
Yeah. Terrible.
I'm laughing because it...
Remember, Big Play VA would just toss it up to Cooper Kupp. I mean, I was thinking about this last night before I went to bed. Like, if the Eastern Eagles had 30 seconds on the clock and they were on their own 20, and they had Vernon Adams and Cooper Kupp, you were sweating bullets.
Yeah.
You were sweating bullets. 30 seconds was an eternity for Vernon Adams.
Yeah, Big Play VA, scary, man. He was so good at just tossing it up and letting his guys go get it. So good at that.
Just making the play happen. They've had some elite offensive talent for so long. for so long.
Yes, not just quarterbacks or wide receivers. I mean, they have good running backs. Taiwan Jones, I think, is still in the NFL, like a decade later.
Yeah.
So they've had some dudes, man. And so in our preseason prediction episode, I called this one as the monkey being off the back. This is the one I called to win. I'm not sure I feel as confident as I did back then, but let's start talking about the game, huh?
Yeah, you and I both thought the Eastern was going to be a little bit down.
Yeah, we
going
did.
into this year.
They had kind of a not so stellar spring season, and I think our buddy Corey sent me the stats from their North Dakota State game because he's kind of trying to figure out how we're going to attack them. North Dakota State in the playoff game against Eastern ran for 444 yards and threw for 50 yards. I don't think that's going to happen, but that's one way. That's one way to approach things. But yeah, they didn't have a stellar spring season, and I was like, "Is this the year that Eastern's down?" No, they're better than they have been in years. Neato. They're one of the examples of actually maybe learning something and improving from the spring season because there hasn't been a whole lot of that. It seems like all the teams in the spring, Weaver State, Idaho seemed like promising in the spring. Idaho State seemed promising in the spring. They've all just not met those expectations. We could do a whole podcast on expectations coming out of spring and performance coming out of spring to how that's stacked up against the fall season.
Yeah. In hindsight, it looks really good that Montana State did not play in the spring season. Would have been a terrible, terrible decision with the new coaching staff.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, maybe if Choate was there, maybe, but yeah. New coaching staff couldn't have planned it better. In fact, you couldn't even written the script for the season much better for a new coaching staff.
It is kind of weird, though. I mean, if we look at the season, it doesn't feel very like the season's been very challenging. Like the Montana State hasn't played a team of like this passing attack that we're going to face against Eastern. Montana State hasn't faced anything like that. And I mean, that's going to be a big storyline in the game is like, how do our young corners hold up against the best in the FCS? Because Eric Barrier statistically is number one in the nation in passing yards. He has 3,297 yards. He has 30 touchdowns, number one in the FCS. His average, number one in the FCS, 412.12 yards per game. His passing rating, number one in the FCS, 181.22. And then just his yards per play, his average is 15.55 yards per play. I mean, those are all just like taken straight off of the website. He's number one in all of them. Montana State hasn't even like who's the best passer we've played against? Davis Alexander?
Easily, yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
People want to say like they knock on that. Davis Alexander, I looked it up earlier. He's 13th in the country in total offense by himself. Like, he's not a slouch.
No. Coach Vegan talked about, or he answered a question in the presser today about like kind of a comparable to EB3, and he said Davis Alexander, but he kind of was like, yeah, Davis Alexander is kind of a guy who can create a play, and that's exactly what Eric Barrier is going to do. When you watch them, I've only watched the Eagles a couple times. I definitely watched when they played Montana, and that's always a special game. Eric Barrier has that just playmaking mentality, just kind of like Vernon Adams, where he can just get out of a tough situation and make a big play. And that's something that really scares me as a Cat fan.
No, he's the guy who like has two guys draped around him, somehow escapes out of it, and as soon as he does, he's going to throw the ball 30 yards down the field and complete it. Like, you just know it.
Yeah.
Like, he's just got that ability. And to go back to what you were saying just a second ago, a reporter, I think it was Robbie Whittle, NBC Montana. Sorry if I butchered your name. What he did is he asked, like, can you compare Eric Barrier to maybe any quarterback you've faced this year? So that's why, and Vegan, like, it was thinking is like, well, for someone that we've actually played against, Davis Alexander, which is clear. Like, there's no other comp of EB3 period. But if there's going to be someone in the conference that plays kind of like that kind of playmaking, looks downfield, makes plays with his legs, like Davis Alexander is the only guy that comes to mind. Now he's only, actually Kyler Neal had a pretty funny joke. He called Davis Alexander, Eric Barrier, a third instead of the third, like the third of Eric Berrier, which I thought was pretty funny. But but it is. He's got this similar kind of play style, but he's nowhere near the talent. But we have faced a prolific quarterback, and he did give us a little bit of trouble. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out there.
So what do you think Montana State's going to do against Eric Berrier?
Oh, man, you're getting right into the strategy talk of this. I've been thinking about this all week long, and I've kind of come to the conclusion that there's no single way to do it, but there's multiple ways to do it. People have been talking on the board like, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. I just don't know what the answer is. Personally, I think there's a couple ways to go about it. I just think you need to try and confuse him. You're never going to stop him. First of all, scratch that. You're not going to stop him. You're not going to hold him down the entire game. You got to confuse him a little bit with some different looks. What it boils down is you have to make him hold on to the ball for 1 to 2 seconds longer than he'd like to. Either the coverage is good, the pressure is good, or the scheme has him thrown off a little bit. You just got to make him hold on the ball a bit longer, and maybe you can get a guide to him. I think that's really the best strategy containing him when he's on the field. I agree with Brent Vegan in his press conference that the best way to keep him in check is to keep him on the sideline. But that's what every opponent tries to do. So, I mean, that's not anything new, and it hasn't worked. But the point, he's going to get the ball, obviously. You can try and keep him on the sideline the best you can. But I think the combination of what I just said, like trying to make him hold on to the ball a bit longer than he wants, make him a little more comfortable than he wants to be, accepting he's going to make plays and not getting down about it, just kind of keep the effort up, and then just trying to keep a little bit of ball control on your side and score. You have to score. You just don't want a situation barrier gets up, because then he can be more comfortable and make more plays. So those are kind of my quick takes on how to slow him down if it's possible.
You gave a lot right there, man.
But yeah, I wasn't ready for that question, but there I went. What's your idea on slowing down the Berrier?
Oh man, my first thing I would say is keep him on the sideline. I know that's the easy thing to say, but Matt McKay, the offense for Montana State, we're gonna have to put together some drives. That when I was doing the research for this game, I think the one thing Montana State can make hay in is our run game. So when I was looking at just like some statistics, Eastern's rush defense is 7th in the conference, and our rush offense is 1st in the conference. And so there's like a distinct advantage on paper right there. When you listen to people talk about this game, they talk about our run game versus Eastern's defense and how that could be something we could exploit. When I watch their defense, they're pretty good tacklers. They're pretty energetic defense. Almost kind of like the Montana Grizzlies. You know how the Grizzlies rally to the ball? I think Eastern has that kind of same mentality.
Yeah, Eastern's kind of built on forcing turnovers, not like stopping you dead in your tracks.
I haven't been terribly super just flat out impressed with our run game. I know we're 1st in the conference, but we haven't played a lot of great teams. I don't know. I don't know if I buy that. We're just going to be able to run all over Eastern.
I mean, if you want to get into this now, I definitely have on my notes concerns about our offense being able to move the ball with the way we played the last few weeks. And running game certainly facts into that. Yeah, we're 1st in the conference, but we also had a couple games where we played San Diego and we're up by 40 points, and then Tommy Millot busts a 70-yard touchdown run. That's going to make your stats look pretty good. And that's not necessarily indicative of into how good you are running the ball. We've been shuffling around the offensive line. We can't seem to find a good group of guys there that's really getting it going. It's kind of interesting. Almost against Idaho State, that was almost a better lineup for us with Taylor Tuiasosopo coming over at right guard. That's just kind of more of his natural position, necessarily like a bulldozer, road grader, kind of paving the way for Afonso, who had 165 yards in that game, I think. Regardless, it's not automatically assumed to me that our offense is going to be able to score a whole bunch of points on them, and that's one of my biggest concerns going into this game. Is not, okay, maybe we can hold Eastern to 38 points. Can we score 38 points?
That's a really good question.
I'm not sure we can.
Yeah, I think it's going to be up to Matt McKay. I think Matt McKay is one of the keys to this game. What version are we going to see of Matt McKay? Coach Vegan talked about him a little bit in this week's presser. He said, what did he say? He said kind of like Matt gets in trouble when the game gets too fast for him. His footwork, and we talked about that, get a little bit, it just messes him up. And he's had some, I just think, let's just call it out. He's had kind of 2 bad games in a row against Weber and Idaho State. This is a big game for him. This is a really big game. And Coach Vegan said that it's a big game for him too, but he also said something, he's like, it's not all on Matt's shoulders. In order for us to beat Eastern, it's going to have to be a team win in all 3 phases. And I think that's going to be like a huge part. Like our defense has to show up. Special teams, we have to have an edge on special teams. Stones Glessner might be the game winner for us. He might be the guy that wins this game. Consistent. I bet we're going to be able to move the balls again in the 20s, between the 20s. The red zone, I'm not sure. Whatever happens. But if we get close, and if it's not windy, Stones is going to hit some big plays for us, I bet.
Cats or us, Golden Coolie question. Is Stones Glessner going to be the highest scorer and win the game ball?
Very well could be.
It could be. He could end up with a 3 or 4 field goals. It's quite possible. in a game that I expect, I just don't see this game being less than, the winning team's going to have more than 24 points easily, I'd imagine. It's hard. It's going to be hard to give a kicker a game ball in this kind of game, I think. But, he could very well kick a game-winning field goal. 34?
Weber put up
35.
35?
35.
35 yeah.
Which is surprising. We held them to 7. They looked terrible, and then they go over into Cheney and score 35 points. But Eastern turned the ball over a ton. Weber State converted 3 fake punts, and Weber State had good starting field position the entire game. They started on their own 35 or 40 every single play or every single drive. I'm not sure we can replicate that success. Maybe I think we have a better offense than Weber State. At least I used to think that, but I'm kind of turning a little bit on the offense in terms of being able to perform against really good teams, and that goes right back to the whole concern about the offense. Can we score in the 30s to win this game?
What was our best offensive output, you thought, watching the Cats this year?
It's a good question. I don't really have the games in front of me, so nothing's jumping to my mind. It's so hard when you're winning games 40-0 in the third quarter, and some of it was pick sixes or some of it was defensive making plays. Most of it's been the offense, though. I'd say most of our offensive output has actually been the offense. I don't think we have any special teams points. We have maybe 2 pick sixes all year. But, yeah, I don't have one off the top of my head. Do you have any?
I have memories of certain games. I liked how we came out against Portland State. I remember the pass that we hit Elijah Elliott right down the seam where it looked like McKay was going to run it, and then he just kind of did the Tebow, just little pass. I thought that was a really cool wrinkle.
Oh, that was South Dakota or Drake, one of the two.
Okay. I also thought we looked really good at Wyoming.
Actually,
they played.
You might be right. Yeah, Wyoming. Yeah, Wyoming was one of our more complete offensive performances. The other ones that kind of come to my mind aren't necessarily the games like the Drakes, the South Dakota or San Diego's, but the Cal Poly game or Northern Colorado games where we kind of were able to execute well. Man, it to me. So I was thinking about this. We're talking about game plans and what it takes to win and how to keep Eric Berrier off the field. There's so many different ways to go about it. The number one thing you have to do is you have to execute whatever game plan that the coaches put out there for you.
That's a good point.
It's kind of like
well said.
When you want to lose weight, almost every single fitness program on the planet is going to work if you follow it. So that really comes down to if we have to be efficient and we have to execute and we can't waste opportunities. And we haven't really been efficient lately. We've had moments this year. I mean, overall, yes, we're efficient, but we just haven't looked very dynamic. And, especially in the last couple of weeks, it makes me just a little nervous that we're not going to be able to be that efficient team. We're going to go 3 and out, or we're going to, I don't think we'll turn the ball over too much necessarily, but I just don't know if we'll be able to sustain any drives.
Yeah. I have that concern too. Like I picture us coming out and then we just run 2 plays up the middle and then have a missed pass or a overthrown ball, and you're just like, here we go again. So I don't want to breathe that into us, but that's definitely a concern for sure.
I mean, the last thing you want to do, my number one thing that I don't want to happen is you don't want to play catch up in this game.
Yeah.
You can't get down 14 or 20 points in the first half. You'll be playing catch up all game. I just don't know if we have the firepower to do that.
Another key to this game I just wrote down is, can we absorb Eastern's big plays and not get off track? And I think, they're going to have their big plays. They're just going to have big plays. Does that sidetrack us? Because we haven't had many big plays against us. Can we weather the storm?
No, I actually did some research a while ago, and that was before the Weber State game and before the Idaho State game, maybe. I don't remember, but it certainly hasn't changed since then. Like, the Cats have had like 2 plays against them all year over 40 yards, like 41, and then a couple, like maybe 3 in the 30s, and most of them in 20. Like, the longest run against us has been like 28 yards, and that was like Xavier Valladay. The Cats haven't really had to respond to an 80-yard bomb touchdown against them. We don't know what that's like. We haven't given up a single one all year. It just seems likely that's going to happen at least one time. How do the guys respond to that? I know Vegan mentioned in his press conference that it's like, hey, you have to be comfortable that he's going to make plays, and you just have to be okay with that. And he's right, and I like that mentality. And he's got to start hammering that home. Like, guys, we've been solid all year. This guy's going to be this once or twice. You have to be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's not a touchdown, but he's going to get over the top. He's going to make a big play.
Yeah. Yeah, it behooves the Cats to just know that's coming and just accept it. Lean into it because it's going to happen.
So offensively, I want to ask you a few questions. You have this kind of side down. It's not all Eric Berrier.
Oh, man.
The running back, Dennis Merritt. Tell us a little bit about Dennis Merritt.
Forgot. I was ready to move on to the Golden Coolies, man.
Yeah, we need to get moving, but I feel like we need to mention some players instead of just talking in generalities this entire time.
Yeah, Dennis Merritt is a redshirt senior who leads the Big Sky Conference in touchdowns. He has 13 touchdowns. To put that in kind of perspective, Fonte only has 7. Fonte has more yards than him. Fonte has 924 yards. Merritt has 692 yards. I didn't know about this guy until recently. It sounds like he's like, big play, EB3, gets him close and then just run it in. So, I mean, he's a dude. He has 13 touchdowns on the season. That's nothing. So,
yeah, 5.2 yards per carry. That's pretty darn good.
They have 3 receivers that are like over 600 yards.
They always have 3 receivers. Always.
Yeah, or like close to. So, Telolu Limo Jones, who is Limu Jones. He has 37 catches. Yeah, I didn't think that guy was going to be back.
I didn't think so either. It looked pretty gnarly.
Snapped in half.
Yeah, he got like drugged down like backwards. It looked pretty gnarly. But yeah, he came back. I think against Weber State. I think he did.
No, he was back last week. Anyways, he's a redshirt senior. He has 623 yards. He only has 2 touchdowns, though. You said he kind of has some drops here and there. And I think,
he's got kind of the stone hand things where very able to drop a perfect one in on him. He'll be streaking wide open because he is a athletic mismatch for pretty much most guys in the Big Sky Conference. But it'll just bounce right off his hands. Like he's just like he's got his fist balled up, trying to catch the ball. It does happen. Yeah. It happened against the Grizz, too. He dropped a sure touchdown pass against the Grizz.
Oh, yeah. Andrew Boston, another 6'3" guy, 6'3", 200 junior, has 629 yards. So he's leading the team. He has 5 touchdowns. And then Efton Chisholm, the third, he's a freshman. Another freshman we get to think about, 522 yards, 6 touchdowns. So I'm not going to say Cooper Kupp's name, but,
Man, the question at this point is, if you have Eric Berrier at quarterback, does it matter who the receiver is? Like if you can get open at all, he's gonna find you. But man, they always have talented wide receivers, and Switching over to the defensive side, there's a couple guys I want to mention before we move on here, which I don't have. Where did I write that down? It's gone. It was a Sandalback, right? What was his name?
Yeah.
Jack Sandalback, their linebacker, who's like fifth or sixth in the Big Sky Conference in tackles, but he only has like 1 sack. So clearly he's like cleaning up stuff, but he's not necessarily getting in behind the backfield. But the guy who is Joshua Jerome, he is fifth in the conference in tackles for loss and like sixth in sacks. So he's got like 11 tackles for loss and 5 sacks. So he's a guy who's going to be disrupting up the middle for the Eagles. But there's a couple playmakers for your information there if you didn't know that ahead of time. As since we pretty much wrapped up this entire conversation without talking about a single player besides Eric Barrier, I felt like we probably should mention that they also have some other good players on all sides of the ball, everywhere.
No, they don't.
Special teams actually probably their weakest link, and this is a game where Bryce Layton's going to have a good game punting the ball.
He used to have a all conference kicker, but he graduated. I'm pretty happy about that. Anyway, yeah, it's like Alcatraz or something. That's not right.
Alcatraz. Well, Cheney is basically a prison, so that works out.
Alcabanes? I don't know. Whatever. Okay.
Actually, I think I remember. This is kind of sounding familiar, but these words are you saying? They're just making up these words. Okay. Anyway, continue on.
Okay, I'm gonna stop talking about Eastern.
I have to Google this now because it's gonna drive me crazy.
I was gonna go to the Escape Authority, but they're charging. They're charging so much to go to this game. I was looking to take my family to this game. I was talking to my boys. It's like, hey, let's go to this game. And they're like, yeah, Dad, let's go. I looked up tickets, base tickets without even ticket fees, $55 for a ticket. And then you look at the parentheses, $14.50 for ticket fees.
$14.50 is absurd. Did you go all the way through the cart? Because I did. There's also a $5 order fee.
Oh, no.
So you're paying $63 in fees for a family of 4. There's no like kid discount, basically. It's $55.
Oh.
It might be $55 for the kids and $60 for you and your wife. $293. $293 for a game in Cheney, Washington. In the end zone, which like it's like almost double what it costs to go to the Washington State Arizona game and watch that game in the end zones in Pullman. for reference.
I was talking to my wife.
Tickets are like $30 and like $5 fees.
We both looked at each other like, heck no. We're gonna go to the Bobcat tailgate. So the Alumni Association over here in Spokane is putting on a tailgate on Friday night. So I ordered us 2 tickets to go to that. We'll do some like meet and greets over there. I don't know who's going to be out there. That'd be cool if you're there. My name's Ryan Foley. If you don't know, just look for my name tab. I hope we have name tags. I'll just put Ryan, whatever. Introduce yourself. That'd be really cool.
Aren't our CatCast on there? People love that.
I don't know, man. I don't, whatever. Maybe, right? Who knows?
Celebrities.
But, man, like, is that like the NFL price for tickets?
No, that's like the NFL price for like 1 ticket.
Oh my word!
You never tried to go to a Seahawks game? Yeah, it's at least $200 per ticket.
Oh yeah,
it's going to cost you $1,000 to go to a Seahawks game for a family of 4 minimum.
Wow. All right.
Because parking is like $50.
Man, and I've rallied against their stadium and field on this podcast for many years now. It is not a fun place to watch a game. The sight lines in the game, like if you're in the visitor side, like the Montana State side, the bleachers are so small that you're just looking right into the back of the Bobcat players. So you really never get a good view of what's going on. It's kind of like being a coach or being on the sideline. You're like, okay, I can see a little bit, but you don't have that view that you really want. Maybe in the end zone because it's a little bit taller. But then you're looking from the end zone, so it's just kind of a weird perspective. from that angle. I don't know.
That's what happens when the stadium is level with the bleachers, like high school, like a Bobcat Stadium.
Exactly.
Like it's all rate, like the field sunk below the bleachers, so that doesn't happen in any legitimate stadium. But yeah, that side of the field, I don't think there's that kind of problem on the Eastern's grandstand side, whatever you want to call it. I think it is raised, but yeah, I've been in the bleachers over on the visitor side, and yeah, if you're in the first like 4 rows, you can't see anything. It's terrible.
All right.
At least there's a track.
Oh man.
That's all we can do. We can talk the stadium. We can smack talk Cheney, but the Eagles absolutely own us. And I'm hoping that changes, man. I called it before the season started. This is when we get the monkeys off the back, and that still very much could happen. So let's hope for it. I feel like we kind of rambled, didn't really get into any meat of anything, but here we are an hour into it. So we're gonna wrap this up, I think. And we won't do a prediction because we never do. But to go back to it, I did predict a win like 3 months ago.
All right. Let's get into this Golden Coolies. I guess let's do more Golden Coolies. All right. Let's start with KW Cat. He said after the Weber game, House Rights interview, he said the offense. Oh, never mind. That was one we already covered. Fast forward. Blue and gold blitz. I want a sticker for my water bottle. So here's my best question I can come up with. In order to Cats to win against Eastern, which player has to play lights out in order for us to succeed?
Matt McKay.
That's an easy one. I was thinking Matt McKay. I was also thinking maybe one of our offensive linemen.
Yeah, that's a good answer too. I mean, Afonso is also a candidate here, but I just think the guy that has to play better than has been playing. If a guy has to elevate himself another notch, it's got to be Afonso. If everyone else plays like they've been playing, I think we're okay. I just think McKay's got to be the guy who takes it up an extra notch. So that's my my answer there.
Do you think McKay has like big game jitters?
I mean, Vegan mentioned at his old stop, he may have been in his head that if he made a mistake, he was going to get pulled out of the game. And you just wonder if that still kind of permeates. He's just kind of afraid to make a mistake. I'd rather see him push it down the field and maybe throw an interception. Of course, I don't know how he responds to throwing an interception because he's only done it one time this year. He's going to be just aggressive at some point. If we're going to be some sort of like national championship caliber team, he's going to have to be able to throw the ball further downfield, make bigger plays, but not just heaving balls to one-on-ones against Lance McCutcheon. So I think this is the game. If he's going to bust out and kind of make some things happen, this is the game that would be most beneficial to the Bobcats.
Yeah, no doubt. I kind of think Eastern's going to cloud McCutcheon. So I think if that's the truth, I thought about this a little bit. I think Jaden Smith might have a big game. Willie Patterson, Charles Brown, some other receivers besides Lance McCutcheon. I love Lance McCutcheon, but it's like, that's, I don't know. I just think they're going to lock him down.
You know who's listed as Jaden Smith's backup on the depth chart released today?
Andrew Patterson?
Nate Stewart.
Ooh.
First appearance in the depth chart, I believe, after being injured. Maybe he has a big game because I love Jaden Smith, but I love the potential of him, but he hasn't made a ton of plays, partially because he hasn't been throwing the ball a lot. So, but maybe he's not getting open. Like, these are the things that you just can't tell on number one. You can't tell on TV. Like the receivers run down the field, the camera doesn't follow the receivers. I don't know what's going on down the field, and we're just fans, so I don't understand football enough to know if Jaden Smith's doing something wrong to not get open. I don't know. Anyway, we need more production from the rest of the crew besides Lance McCutcheon. However that shakes out. Whatever.
Come on. All right. Bleeding Blue asks, what is the most important thing the Cats need to do Saturday to come out on top other than score more points?
I think I said this earlier. I think the single biggest thing is just don't play from behind. Don't get down and where we have to play a game at catch up with against Eastern Washington because that's just not going to end well. We can't get in a track meet. Well, track meet maybe, but trading punches. We just can't get behind. I think that's kind of my basic answer on that one.
Yeah, so I don't know if I agree with that because I think we will be behind. I think there's going to be a distinct possibility where we're all of a sudden 7 points, 14 points behind. I think you can't freak out at that point. I think you got, unless it's fourth quarter, right? And you're like, okay, well, that's something. It's first quarter, we're down 14 points. Stick to the game plan. Trust the game plan. To answer Bleeding Blues, I think, I don't know. Two things: sustain drives and create a turnover.
To clarify, when I say play from behind, I don't mean like they scored a touchdown and now you're behind. I'm talking far enough behind it gets you out of whatever game plan you had.
All right.
So like 17, 21 points. Like it's enough. Like, all right, we have to abandon what we're doing and start throwing the ball over the field. Like that's all right. That's what I mean. 10 points, 14 points. That's okay. You can still, you can still run your game plan and get back in the game at that point.
Joe Bobcat gives us a drinking. Excuse me. I just had to burp there. Excuse me.
I forgot about this question. This is a good one.
Which of the three following drinking games would result in the largest consumption of alcohol and thus the highest level of intoxication? Number one, you have to take a drink every time a post in the Eastern Washington game thread mentions rust. Number two, you have to take a drink every time the post in the Eastern game thread mentions red carpet. Or number three, you have to take a drink for every error that still exists in the MSU football roster. Wrong jersey number, weights that weren't updated, whatever. If it's wrong, you drink.
Yeah, is Kenneth Iden still listed at like number 10 on the roster? That's been like forever since that was changed around. That's clearly Brody Grebe. Drink. So I'm gonna go with number 2, the red carpet. Every time someone, now not necessarily the exact wording of the red carpet, but anytime I mention the stupid red turf, that's gonna be brought up the most in the game thread. Interestingly enough, I don't read the game thread until Monday morning.
No, you shouldn't stay out of ever.
I get myself on Monday, especially after a win, I just get myself a cup of coffee, go over there and just read it like a good book. But red carpet, that's my vote. That'll get you the drunkest.
Sometimes I'm part of that game day thread, and you know me, I'm a little bit of a negative Nelly sometimes, and so
that's what it's for. And honestly, that's why I stopped doing it, because I felt myself being negative in there, and that's fine. That's what it's for. I have nothing against that. I just didn't like who I was in there. So that's okay. I just stopped reading it because I'm like, this is just negative town, and I'm going to dive right into it. Just going to I'm going to take a deep dive right into it.
We have one left.
I said deep dive.
I almost said it earlier. All right. Puckett21 says, do the coaches ever call plays based on weather? I noticed in the Eastern Grizz game, players losing the ball because of the sun several times. Also, the red field seems to cause a lot of slipping if you're having to burst fast. Do they call plays based off of weather? I think we craft game plans based off of weather, but I don't know if we call specific plays against weather. What do you think?
It's funny because there was I don't know if it was the Grizz game against Southern Utah. There was a game I was watching. I don't know if it was this weekend or 2 weeks ago, where a wide receiver, like half the field was shaded, half the field was sunny, and they threw like a arcing ball to the sunny side, and the wide receiver completely lost it in the sun and just dropped it. And I was like, And I was actually thinking to myself, like, do they take that into account? Like, if you're the quarterback, you got to know the sun's behind you. You can't throw a high arcing ball directly into the sun's path. Your guy's not gonna have a chance on it. I don't know if that's like, I don't know if it goes all the way down to the offensive coordinator, like, oh, we can't throw it in that corner because the sun will blind our dude. Like, I don't know. Like, that's I had that thought, though. It's a good question. I don't have an answer for it. I think a smart offensive coordinator might take that into consideration. I don't know if it changes things. But overall, like Foley said, yeah, if it's rainy, you're going to change your game plan. Like, you're going to craft your game plan with the weather forecast based up a couple, like maybe a day or two leading into the game. You're gonna tweak some things for sure.
All right.
We have
I
the
think
big
that's
one
all
for
we had on
Facebook.
Bobcat Nation. We already read the last one early on.
You want to dig into Twitter real quick? Or do you even have Twitter anymore? You anti-Twitter?
Kind of anti-Twitter.
You are. We have one on Facebook that's a big, long one. I'm going to try and parse out the question here real quick. It has to do with Tommy Millott. So when Choate left, the person who submitted the question, I thought we had seen the end of the Troy Anderson-style Wildcat quarterback by committee, while Green McKay has been solidified as number one. Is this a carryover from Choate's scheme, or does Vegan actually think that this same way that implementing this type of scheme keeps teams on their toes?
Can it be both?
I think it'd be both. Why not? I just he said multiple times before the season started that Millott's a guy that he's too good of an athlete to keep off the field, and I don't know where else you put him. So why not?
He talked a little bit about it in his press conference today. He talked about how Millott has had success. He goes, "Why would we shy away from that? We're going to essentially lean into that." He also talked about how Millott is a quarterback. He fairly clearly stated he is a quarterback first, kind of hinting at, in his own vegan way, that, hey, we're going to see some more out of this package before the year's in.
And second part of his question is, does this disrupt Matt McKay's rhythm? I'm basically
think so.
Paraphrasing here, but yes.
I think so. I thought that was a good part of that question. I think it does disrupt the system. I think the more we go into this 2-quarterback system is not good for Montana State. You and I were talking before we hit record. The 2-quarterback system is not something I want Montana State to be known for, especially in November. And I might be, like, if it wins us games, I'm still not a fan of it, man. Like, it's not as good as just having a traditional quarterback who can sling it all around. It's just gimmicky. It has its ceiling for sure.
I think it can work. It just has to, I've seen so many times where a guy like Tucker Rovig, like we all talked about last year, how Tucker Rovig seems to be a guy who's like a rhythm quarterback. You got to get his confidence up. You got to get his rhythm going. But then he gets that going and they pull him out and they bring in Travis Johnson. I just think if you're going to do it, you can't have it so scripted that you disrupt a guy's rhythm he's built up. So absolutely, I think it can disrupt a rhythm. I haven't seen that this year necessarily. Maybe I just haven't paid enough attention. But yeah, if Millott's going to come in more and more, it'll absolutely, I think, mess with McKay's confidence in his rhythm for sure.
Confidence, maybe not. Rhythm, yes.
I mean, you're getting taken out of the game for a running quarterback. I don't know. Maybe it messes your confidence. Maybe it doesn't.
Yeah. Good question, though.
Good question. Yeah, I'm glad we got to it because we hadn't really mentioned Millott yet. Moving over to Twitter, we got a couple over there. We have Andrea. She asked us, how do they plan on slowing down Eastern Washington's offense? I think we already kind of took stabs at that. I think it's what we started basically the whole thing off on. Patrick is asking if either one of us are going to the game. I'm too far away, and you already said you're not going to pay those exorbitant price gouging fees that the Eagles are running. The scheme over there. I honestly, and there's a few other guys on Bobcat Nation who said they were going to go and they aren't going to because of the price. I hope this comes to bite them. Their attendance against Weber State was pretty atrocious, and I hope it just continues to tank because no one wants to pay $70 a ticket to go to any Eastern Washington game. Period. I think it's just ridiculous. By the time fees,
I think you would get more money if you lowered it down to $20. You get more people in.
You would.
Like, oh yeah, I'd take my family to that in an instant. Not when I'm spending close to $300 to go watch the Cats play.
Yeah,
it just seems silly.
Yeah, they're banking on the Montana fans traveling, and my Montana, I mean the state of Montana State. They're banking on that. I think it was even worse for the Grizz game, but yeah, I think that's just ludicrous. Drew Burkhart, one of our guys who interacts with us a lot on Twitter, which side of the ball will be most important to getting the W? The offense sustaining long drives and scoring every chance they get, or the defense minimizing the amount of points Eastern Washington puts up? He thinks this is a game where the offense will need to outshine the defense to get the victory. I alluded to this. We talked about this. I think the offense is my biggest concern, and I think my biggest key. They don't need to score a ton of points. I'm a little concerned that the offense is going to have a harder time scoring than we think that they're going to. So in my opinion, the offense is the big key for me. I think our defense can do enough to put the offense in position to win the game. I'm just not sure the offenses can do that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I also want to say, the last quarter the Montana State Bobcats played was a really good quarter. McKay looked really good in that quarter.
Yes.
I'm kind of hoping that just carries on. I think the key to this game is definitely our offense, for sure.
Yeah, that last quarter against Idaho State, the game wasn't quite out of hand yet, and McKay turned it up and made some good throws. So I'm hoping that led to positive momentum heading to the bye week. And Vegan said he had a really good week of practice, like 4 or 5 practices. He's been praising McKay for the way he's practiced this week. So let's hope that translates. Boston Bobcat. Here's a nugget for you, gents. Oh, man, here we go. This is the second time in 8 years that the Bobcats have entered the Inferno with at least a 5-game winning streak. The year was 2013. The Cats proceeded to get humiliated as well as finish the season losing the next 3 games. He asks us, is there any chance that the history repeats itself?
2013, we lost 29-54.
Was that 2013?
29-54. Woo.
That might have been the game that they scored like on every single possession. That might be the one.
They might have done that for like 3 years in a row.
Like you said,
under
that might be more than one game, but there was one specific game. But unfortunately, if the Cats go into Cheney, get blown out, there could be some sort of letdown game against Idaho. Like it could happen. Like, there's a situation that could happen, and the Grizz are going to be tough in Missoula. No matter how bad they played against Southern Utah, how much I want to rib them for it, they're going to be tough. It's the brawl of the wild. I mean, there's the possibility that if this game sets off a domino effect where we lose out, and that I think it's a low percentage. I don't think it's going to happen. But he asks any chance that history repeats itself. I'd say like a 5% chance.
I don't know. I don't think so. I just think Coach Vegan and company just have a different mindset.
Yeah.
One thing I really appreciate about Coach Vegan is his approach to these games. When I was listening to the press conference today, I just don't get the feeling that obviously he never gets too high, but I don't think he ever gets too low, and he doesn't
go anywhere.
He always talks about. Yeah, he is like the walking meme of like the mean average. Yeah. Like Coach Vegan is just right there.
Brent Vegan enjoys vanilla ice cream for sure. And nothing else.
You made me forget what I was going to say. Oh, no. He always talks about their preparation, their mental preparation. That is something he harps on every single week when we listen to him. And that's what makes me believe that I don't think this is going to be the emotional roller coaster that we've experienced. I would be surprised, honestly, if we lose, which I predicted back in August when we were doing our preview. I predicted this as a loss. So if we lose, I would be shocked if we lose the next 2. It could happen, but I don't think it's likely.
Well, I don't know about you, but this big beer I've been drinking, it's starting to affect me in a negative way. How about you? How you doing over there?
It's 10:30 at night, man.
It is 10:30. We are an hour 15 into this, which I think is going to be. It's a long episode, but I think people are going to be good. I think it's going to be good content. People want to listen to this one because we had a week off. It's the biggest game we've had in a while. We didn't have anything else to talk about except for the preview, and we still somehow managed to take this into an hour 15. There's that beer talking right there. Was there any other Golden Coolie questions? Did we get them all? I think we did.
Got a lot. We appreciate it, man. I mean, when we have a lot of Golden Coolie questions, that is so cool. I mean, you guys are sending them in, and I've been sending a ton out. I got stickers coming in those Golden Coolies as well. Thorny, did anyone stick out to you, buddy?
I like the drinking game one because that's always funny to me.
All
I
right,
like
Joe
to drink.
Bobcat. You know, Joe Bobcat, though. Okay, we can give one to Joe Bobcat. Here's the deal, Joe. Send me your. I know you have a golden coolie. I want to give you a sticker, and I also want to give a Bloom Gold Blitz because he said I want a sticker. Anybody who like literally tells me they want a sticker,
Yeah,
man, I'm gonna send you a sticker.
that's the secret.
I got tons of them.
Secret here that no one's willing to tell you is that he'll just give you something if you ask him. We do this Golden Coolie winner, which is great, but just send him a message. He'll send you one.
Yeah, if you send us a nice message, telling us how much you really enjoy our podcast,
Flattery
twist my arm,
will get
right?
you everywhere.
All right, let's end this, Thorny.
Let's get out of here. My goodness, this is an episode. This is an episode that we released to people again. Thanks for listening, everyone. You can find us on Twitter, our CatCast. You can find us on the internet, rrcatcast.com. You can find us on bobcatnation.com. We have a couple of threads there, a Golden Coolie thread and a R&R CatCast thread where I basically post the new releases. You can email us at rrcatcast.com if you're not into social media like my co-host Ryan Foley hates all that kind of stuff. You can always email us. That's perfectly acceptable. And let's get out of here with a Go Cats.
Go Cats.
Go Cats.